Hello everyone, good evening. Today is 27th of December and welcome to IDEA, that is in-depth editorial analysis discussion. So guys, in the session we take up the best of the editorials that have been published in the different newspapers, and through these editorials we focus on content enrichment, which is very much important for the UPSC examination, particularly for your main answer writing sessions, essay, and even in the prelims examination. Content is very important, so content enrichment will be focused. Second, it will also be focusing on as how to link the contemporary affairs, the current affairs, with the static portions of GS 1, 2, 3. And if there are certain good case studies for GS 4, they are also taken up. Detailed backgrounders will also be taken up. Fine, because many number of times we don't know that what is the background of a particular article, what context there is, supplemental information, structured explanations, art of exam presentation, and multidimensionality. How from different angles a particular topic, a particular issue can be seen. All these particular things will be the highlights of this particular session. Okay, so guys, in the today's video we are going to take cover actually the four different sources, and in total four editorials have been taken up. The first article, the global gloom budgets for must. Now this particular article will be important directly for GS paper number 3 government budgeting, and the article is taken from Times of India. Second article, citizens must stand up for environment. It will be important for environment, ecology, conservation, GS paper number 3, and the article has been taken from the Hindustan Times. Third, all is not well in India's agriculture sector. So this article will be important for GS paper number 3. Issues with Indian agriculture article is taken from the print. And the budget must rationalize. This article is again important for government budgeting and is taken from the Business Line newspaper. Okay, so guys, now let's start with the discussion on all these particular articles. Before that, a very good evening to all of you who have joined. A good evening to Priyanka, Shubdeep, Gaurinath, Fazil, Madhusmita, Pandi Santosh, again Shubdeep, Pooja. A very good evening to all of you. Now, guys, let's start with the session. The first article that we are going to take is the global gloom budgets for must. The most important thing on which the budget has to focus up. Now, guys, this particular article actually is talking on many of the innovative suggestions, the innovative way forwards that have been there. Now, basically, guys, this article is actually talking about that as we are seeing that the budget will be introduced. Fine. So, what should be priorities of 2023 and 2024 budget? Now, guys, understand this particular thing that right now we have seen this particular thing that impact of COVID-19 pandemic is still there. Now, in this particular, how to reduce that particular impact and how to bring the economic revival. Okay. Now, understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the global economic scenario, it has been very weak. It has not been very much positive. But India's growth rate has been favorable, has been good in this particular direction. Okay, when we talk about the global economic scenario, the problems here, we find this particular thing that number one, there is Russia Ukraine war that is going on. After that, the global inflation is very much high. So global inflation is very much high. Thirdly, guys, we see this particular thing that the global demand is subdued, it is less, and because of the global demand is less, India's export sector is not able to perform. So because of these three major factors, the global economic scenario has not been very much positive. It's gloomy. But India's economy has been resilient. But in 2023, India's economy might face certain challenges. Okay, so therefore we need to bring certain reforms in the short term. Now, these type of articles are very much important for the state of Indian economy. So basically, guys, first of all, let's see that what's the present scenario and what are the issues and the challenges that we have. The issues and challenges, and first of all, the important scenario. So we see this thing that the domestic consumption had seen a kind of a full recovery in 2022. So basically, the year 2020 and 2021, the domestic consumption or the private consumption was not very much good. Why? Because it was the pandemic year, and in the pandemic people were more concerned as how they can save more and more money, because in pandemic economic recovery was very much weak. So people did not carry the consumption. Now, guys, understand this particular thing that you need to understand the role of domestic consumption, private consumption for a particular concept. Let us understand this thing. When we talk about the growth rate of any nation, GDP is an important marker. That is the case in the case of India also. Now, when we talk about the GDP, how the GDP is calculated, you need to understand this particular formula. So, GDP is calculated by A formula, that is private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure, private final consumption expenditure, government final consumption expenditure. Then there are investments, investments, and then there are net exports. Net exports. When we talk about the net exports are calculated by X minus M, that is export minus A. So private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure plus investment plus net exports, you add it, you get the GDP of a country. Now, what is this private final consumption expenditure? Private final consumption expenditure is the money that individuals, you, me, are spending on consumption. Government final consumption expenditure is that what government is spending. Government is doing a lot of expenditures. That is the government final consumption expenditure. Now, when we talk about the private final consumption expenditure, it is basically 55% of India's GDP comes from this particular component. Is it clear? So, the domestic consumption, in the domestic consumption, guys, basically, though both private and government will come, both private and government will come, but particularly when we talk about the private sector's consumption, it plays a very important role. Now, you see this thing 2020 and 2021, when pandemic was there, economic gloom is there, when people are concerned that whether this pandemic will even be getting over or not, people will not spend, people will save. So demand was not there. Consumption is not there. If consumption is not there, understand this particular thing, I will make a link. So consumption is not there. If consumption is not there, people will not demand the goods. If people will not demand the goods, what will happen? Obviously the supply will also go down. Yes, supply always try to match the demand. Supply will go down. Now, supply will go down. What it means? It means that the industries will not manufacture. If they don't manufacture, they will fire the people. Employment will go down. So entire economy will get impacted. So therefore, always increasing the consumption, particularly the private final consumption, is very much important for the economic growth, for the for the improvement into the. Now we see this particular thing that for entire 2022, a minute, we see this particular thing that in the 2022 there is near full recovery. There is nearly full recovery that has happened in the domestic consumption, both private as well as government. Why? There are certain reasons in this particular direction. Number one, there is the pent up demand. What is pent up demand? Guys, understand this particular thing that 21 and 20 people were not able to spend, they were not able to go on holidays, they were not able to go on vacations. And why? While that particular thing was not done, there was a pent up demand. People wanted to spend as soon as the lockdown is lifted. Okay, so there is a sugar rush. People wanted to spend, people wanted to go for shopping, people wanted to go for vacation because they have not done that for 2 years. That is the pent up demand, which was just trapped. Now it got opened up. Because of that, people consumed. Then the festive demands in goods on Diwali and all other festivals, there were the demand on goods that increased. Okay, it also, and also there was the reopening of the dynamics in the service sector. Service sector, hospitality sector, and many services which were suspended, now they also they got open up. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that today we see this particular thing that in the 2022 there is also the growth rate into the personal loans at around 20%. Now why the growth rate in personal loans is there? It's because of the slow interest rates. Very less interest rates were there in last 2 years, particularly 21, 22. Now the Reserve Bank of India is increasing the interest rate because inflation has become a really big challenge, but interest rates were less. And because the interest rates were less, people took the personal loans, and by these personal loans they are spending money on on marriages. They're spending money on marriages, on shopping, on all such kind of thing. So this thing has increased the domestic demand, domestic consumption. By the domestic consumption, domestic demand has increased, and by the domestic demand there is an economic recovery that has come. So these are the good things, positive things that have happened. But at the same time, there are certain threats, there are certain challenges also that are being faced on the aspect of Indian economy. Number one challenge is that the exports are slowing down, exports are going down. We see this particular thing now, guys. India wants to become an export led nation, but growth is not there. Now why growth is not there in exports? You need to have a reason for everything. It's not because the global demand is very much less. Why global demand is less? Because the global economic prospects are not positive. Why global economic prospects are not positive? Because the Russia Ukraine war, it is because of the COVID-19 new cases that are coming and all such kind of things. Secondly, private capital expenditure is yet to take off. Now, understand this thing that when we talk about the investments in economy, Government can do the investment in infrastructure, they can do investment in another kind of a sectors, logistics, etc. Second, private sector's investment. What, how many RDI, FDI is coming from the global sectors? How much industrial expansion is happening? So private capital expenditure, it is not increased. Because of this particular thing, guys, there is a challenge. Now, guys, understand there is a very simple relation in this particular direction. Suppose there is Adani. Suppose there is Adani. Now Adani wants to invest the money. Adani wants to install a new industry. Okay. So therefore the Adani will invest, capital expenditure will be done. So when the industry is being built, laborers are to be hired, they get employment. When industry will be completed, when it will be completely built, then again the people will be hired to work in this new industry. So whenever the capital expenditure will be done, it will bring employment, growth generation, all these things. But the capital, the private expenditure is not coming. Why it is not coming? Because, fine, because capacity utilization level are very much concerned. Now understand this particular thing. Suppose there is one industry, and let's say this industry can manufacture shoes. It can manufacture 100 pair of shoes in one particular. Now let's say today the demand is of 80, and the industry is also manufacturing the 80. Is it clear? Now the capacity is to manufacture 80 shoes, but the industry is manufacturing only, sorry, the capacity is to manufacture 100 shoes, but the corporate is manufacturing just 80. So it means 20 more pair of shoes it can manufacture in this particular capacity. So industries said this particular thing, that our capacity utilization is not at 100%. We have more capacity. So if, why we should do go for expansion? First we will use our existing capacity and then we will go for industry expansion. So they don't, are not expanding, they are not investing. Okay, this is something that is happening. However, in past 1 year we see this particular thing, that utilization is going up, utilization is going up, and soon it will go to 100%, but still they are not investing, because in the long term they are not very much confident that the economic recovery will be there. Clear? Then the other issues that are coming here is that the demand recovery has been the function of urban consumption. Demand have increased in last 2022 particularly, but the demand has increased because of the urban consumption. Rural consumption is very much less. In the rural areas people are not consuming. So these are certain things that are happening. Now guys, moreover it is being said that now there are other challenges that are coming. For example, Reserve Bank of India has now started to increase the interest rate, and as the interest rate will go up, the consumption demand will go down. Obviously if interest rate will become high, personal loans people will not take it. People will not take the personal loan. Okay, then after that guys, over the period of time there will be the normalization of pent up demand also. Okay, people were frustrated, they want to spend, but कर लिया spend, अभी कितना spend करते रहेंगे? So that is the issue is coming. Okay, now when we talk about the rural consumption, what are the patterns on rural consumption? Let's understand this part. Rural inflation is a softening. Rural inflation, which became very much high, now it is going down, which is a positive news. Now then so this is a good thing. Then secondly, there are challenges also that we have. We need to sustain the better farm in farmers. They have the farmers, most of them basically they have sowed the rabi crops. Now next year, fine, around the March, around the month of the March, when the harvest will be there, we need to ensure that basically they get the better price of their harvest. So sustaining the better farm incomes is very much important. Okay, Harif's harvest, the rabi sowing, they are going to be the big challenge. Fine. Now, in the direction to help the rural sector, recently what has happened, extension of free food gains policy is a welcome step that government has taken. Now, if you are reading the newspaper, you might be knowing this particular thing already. That recently government has said that under National Food Security Act, 3 rupees kg, 2 rupees, 3 rupees kg rice, 2 rupees kg wheat, and 1 rupee kg coarse grains that were being provided. Okay, that were being provided. Now government had said that they will be provided entire free of cost. Even you don't need to pay 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 1 rupees. So the food grain extension, free food grain policy has been extended. This particular thing will act as an indirect transfer of money to the people. How? What will happen when people don't need to spend on these particular kind of things? Government people, they can spend on some other thing. So it is a kind of an income transfer that is happening. Now, what can be solutions in this direction? What can be the way forward in this particular direction? Now there can be multiple way forwards. Now I have divided these way forwards under the relevant sections. First of all, the way forward for consumption. Now, in this particular direction, guys, understand this particular thing, that the budget should focus on keeping the consumption momentum intact in the 23-24 as well. So we have seen that in 22, the consumptions got improved majorly because of the pent up demand and the festive demand. But we again need to ensure that in this year it should go up. And for that particular thing, what needs to be focused? We need to focus that in the rural sector, where the rural consumption is not very much positive, in the rural sector we need to transfer more and more benefits. Income is to be transferred. Okay, how? National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Are you getting it or not? Fine. National Rural Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. By this particular scheme, can provide the income transfer, and by that income they will consume. You need to increase the outlay. You need to increase the budgetary outlay for this scheme. Under the PM Kisan, we should consider increasing the budgetary outlay so that more incomes can be given to the farmer. Is it clear? Then PM Awas Yojana Gramin, PM Gram Sadak Yojana. Okay, so by these particular things, expenditure should be done so that the money will go to people and they will increase the consumption. Then on the supply side in India, we also need to focus on certain scenarios. Now, in the on increasing the supply side, now guys understand this particular thing, that production linked incentive scheme is there. What is the production linked incentive? Under the production linked incentive scheme, incremental sale, incremental sales are incentivized. Let me give you one very simple example. Suppose there is a mobile sector, the mobile manufacturing sector. Suppose last year you have done the sale of 2000 crore rupees. This year you have done, let's say, the sale of 3000 crore rupees. Okay? So additional sale you have done is of 1000 crore. So this is the incremental sale. 1000 crore is incremental sale. On this incremental sale of 1000 crore rupees, you will be provided the benefit of 2 to 5%. 2 to 5%, 4%, 5%, depending on the different components, the incentive will be. Now, by this particular thing, what had happened, manufacturing has improved in India. Now, production linked incentive scheme has been brought on many of the sectors. It has been provided that production linked incentive scheme, which has been introduced for the mobile phone production, it got boosted up. Now more and more mobile phones are being manufactured. So it has been provided that basically in 2014 and 15, India's mobile phone exports were around $5 billion. Okay, okay, around sorry, a minute. So basically, what is being provided? It is being provided that India's mobile phone exports, they were negligible. They were negligible, but now they have increased to $5 billion in 21-20. Now, how this particular thing is becoming possible? This particular thing is becoming possible because of the support that we have given to the mobile manufacturing by the production linked incentive, and this $5 billion can nearly double by 2022-2023. Why? Again, because of the production link scheme that has been. So by this production linked incentive scheme, we can increase the manufacturing. When the manufacturing will be increased, the supply side bottlenecks, if they are there, they will be addressed. By increased supply, we can export these particular products. By that particular thing, India's export competitivity will also improve. Okay. Now further, what needs to be done in order to increase the competitiveness of the manufacturing so that they can, so the supply side challenge can be. Number one, we need to increase the cost competitiveness of the domestic. Now, today, the Indian products are not very much competitive. For example, if I give you an example, manufacturing a pen, let's say, cost 1 rupees in China. Manufacturing a pen might cost 3 rupees in India. Okay? So if 3 rupees pen we want to export and 1 rupee pen we want to export, suppose the pens are to be exported to the USA. So USA people will be more favorable to Chinese pen because they are at 1 rupee. Indian pen at 3 rupees. So Indian product competitive. So basically, we need to increase the cost competitiveness so that Indian, no, we don't need to increase cost. We need to increase the cost competitiveness. India's products need to be priced in a competitive spirit. Now, what are the challenges? Logistic challenges are there. Sometimes internal transportation is expensive. Sometimes the cost of manufacturing is expensive because the power is expensive, raw material is expensive. All these challenges are. So we need to identify such kind of a challenges and we need to make our sector cost competitive, manufacturing cost competitive. Then we need to rationalize the inverted duty structures. Inverted duty structure. Guys, understand this particular thing. Suppose I am importing a mobile phone, and let's say I'm importing the components of mobile. Now, in the components, for example, I import battery, I import screen, I import mobile phone's cover, I import some semiconductors. Now, point is that basically our duty structure is something like this, that if I will basically the point is that basically importing a mobile phone, there will be the X amount tax on that. Importing the components, there will be the Y amount of tax on that. Sometimes importing the component or sometime importing the final product, the prices on them that are not clear or not, it leads to inverted duty. Next is we need to extend the output based incentive PLI scheme. Fine. So we have extended the production linked incentive scheme to the high tech sectors, but now we need to increase them to the toy sector, furniture, leather, cosmetics, on all these kind of things. Custom duties are needed to be rejigged. Custom duties are needed to be rejigged. We need to rationalize the custom on some products. When there are the high custom duties, we need to reduce them. Okay. Now, moving on in this particular direction, guys, the next thing that comes here is that we also need to focus on the taxation dimension. Now, when we talk about, guys, the tax revenue collection, they have been a sweet spot. There are good tax collections that have been there in 2022, 2020. Direct tax collections, corporate tax collections, in personal income tax collections, they will surpass the budgetary estimate. They will surpass 4.5 lakh crore rupees as per the Quanteco research. This is something good. But GST collections are also strong. Okay, GST selections are also strong. But guys, there are other issues that are also. Basically, you see this thing that the GDP growth rate will moderate in 23 2020. GDP growth rate is expected to be around 9 to 10%. It was comparatively more, around 15 to 16% in 2023. Now, it doesn't mean that it is more in absolute terms. Basically, guys, when we talk about growth rate, the base year, the base year, growth rate in that base year makes a lot of now. Last to last year, the growth rate was very, very less, because in that particular comparison, the 2020 to 23 growth rate looks up good, 15 to 16%. But next year go, it will stabilize around 9 to 10%. In this particular thing, there might be the lower tax collections. So we need to focus on this particular thing. Is it clear? We need to ensure that the strong tax buoyancy. What is the meaning of this particular tax buoyancy? Guys, understand this particular thing, that when the GDP will grow, when the GDP will grow, with the growth of GDP, there will be some changes in government's revenue growth, tax collection that will happen. If GDP is growing, tax collection is growing, say it is a positive tax. So tax buoyancy is a relationship between the changes in government's tax revenue and differences in the changes in the GDP versus tax revenue. That is called as tax. Now, next focus we need to make is on capital expenditure. Okay, capital expenditure is not good, particularly by private sector. Private sector is not investing. There are many reasons in this particular direction. Number one, there is a cloudy global growth out. Is it clear or not? Global growth is not positive. So industrialists, they don't want to establish new, because they will not be able to export, because in the global growth outlooks are not good. Second thing, this global growth outlook is not positive because of inflation, Russia Ukraine war, geostrategic instabilities. There is a lingering geopolitical uncertainty, Russia Ukraine war, China USA confrontation. Next thing that comes here is that there is a rise in COVID-19 cases in China now. And now again, the world is facing that there might be again another wave of COVID-19. So this is something. Now, guys, government has taken certain initiatives. And by these particular initiatives, government had tried to increase the capital expenditure. What government has done? For example, national infrastructure pipeline has been under the national infrastructure pipeline, 100 lakh crore rupees are to be invested for the capital, for in the form of the capital expenditure for infrastructure. 100 lakh crore rupees are invested. Now, this is something which can bring the strong growth. This money, when it will flow into the economy, it will bring the strong growth. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that the capital expenditure could see the growth of 20 to 25% in 24. Okay, this is something that uh, can be there. After that particular thing, basically, lower revenue rationalization in both food and fertilizer subsidy bill needs to be done, and it will support the efficient expenditure revalue. Now understand this thing. When we talk about the government expenditures, it could be revenue expenditure, could be capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is one which builds certain assets, or reduces your liability. Revenue expenditure is for the day to day activities, maintenance, for example, the salaries, law and order, the monies, and sanitation money. So that particular expenditure is a revenue expenditure. Now, guys, in the revenue expenditure, the expenditure that we are doing on food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, that also comes. Okay, so this particular kind of expenditure also comes in revenue. Now we need to reduce the revenue expenditure and we need to increase capital expenditure. So divert expenditure from here to here. Rationalization in food and fertilizer subsidies to be done where we spend a lot of money. This is something that needs to be. Then the next focus should be on bringing the fiscal deficit under control. Now, guys, understand this particular thing that when we spend more than what our receipts find the fiscal deficit. So basically, guys, when government is spending more and is receipts are less, fiscal deficit is now fiscal deficit usually will be there in developing countries. Okay, but we need to keep fiscal deficit under a manageable limit. Now we have FRBM. Okay, that is the Financial Responsibility and Budget Management Act. And the FRBM Act has basically put a mandate on government to keep fiscal deficit in a manageable limit. Fine, but because of the COVID-19, we need to spend more and more for the health expenditure is there, subsidy expenditure. Under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, government has given many of the new subsidies. So we have to actually spend more. And what happened? Our fiscal deficit increased. So it has been said that our fiscal deficit ratio was around 6.7% in 21-20. It increased to 6.4% in 22-23. And it is being said that in the upcoming budget, government need to focus at how or what it will do, how it will plan its expenses that the fiscal deficit comes down. So we need to bring it at least to 4.5% by 25-26 and gradually we further reduce it to around 3% at least in a phased manner. So every year 0.5 percentage reduction in the fiscal deficit is to be done. Fine. Now, what steps now there are certain steps that can be taken for targeting the fiscal deficit. Now, by taking these particular steps of the fiscal deficit, what will happen? Government will be able to balance the trade-off between fiscal prudence and understand this thing after the COVID-19 pandemic. After the COVID-19 pandemic, government was more fixated on bringing for that fiscal deficit was increased. Now we cannot endlessly go with that particular because when fiscal deficit is increasing, when you are spending, you need to provide the money. Okay, now I just will take one example. Suppose you got 100 rupees and you spend 500 rupees. Now, how you can spend 400 rupees extra? You can spend only by taking the loan. When you take the loan, you need to pay interests on. Okay, and by that particular thing in the long term, drain your. So now we need to focus on fiscal prudence as well as growth. And for that particular thing, we need to increase fiscal deficit, but not out of bounds. The next thing that comes here is that basically targeting of fiscal deficits will also leave adequate room to absorb exogenous shocks. Fine. Now many of the external challenges also are coming on Indian economy. If we will reduce our fiscal deficit and if we'll conserve the financial resource, we'll be able to deal with that thing. We will bring the fiscal discipline. If government's budget, if government's balance sheet, their fiscal deficit are in control, it this fiscal discipline will be valued by global investors and more FDI, more investments will come in. So these are certain things that have been recommended in this particular direction. Now, guys, moving on to the next article. Citizens must stand up for environment. Now, this particular article we have taken from the Hindustan Times, and the article will be important for GS paper number 3. Article will be important for GS paper number 3, environment and now, why this particular article has come is here there is one case study that has been provided. Two of the environmental activists' name has been used. Now these particular examples can be used even in your answer. They actually create a very good impression in your ethics GS paper number 4. For example, you can use these examples. in environmental ethics. Even the question on environmental ethics has been asked. So two of the people, that is Manju Kandam and Mustafa Palikut, they have been felicitated. They have been awarded for their role, for the activities that they have done in order to address two of the major environmental, that is the climate crisis and biodiversity loss. Now, both of these activists, environmental activists, were actually involved in organizing biodiversity management committee, and they have also worked with the local community to prepare the people's biodiversity. Now, we'll understand that what are the biodiversity register and what is BMC's biodiversity management. They have helped. Basically, guys, when we talk about the biomanagement committees, fine, they were involved in organizing the biomanagement. So, what is the biodiversity management? So, as per the Biological Diversity Act 2010 that we signed after ratifying the CBD Convention on Biological Diversity. So, CBD Convention was ratified. CBD Convention was adopted in 1990. Okay, and it got ratified by India also signed it, and therefore to ensure the targets of CBD, the Biological Diversity Act was under the Biological Diversity Act. Biodiversity management committees are to be. Now, these particular committees will ensure that the conservation of biodiversity, flora, fauna. It will also ensure sustainable use of biological diversity. Now, many of the medicinal plants are there. These medicinal plants have a lot of usage in pharmaceutical and in other kind of. So, how the biodiversity can be used? Okay, by the local bodies to ensure that particular thing. Exploitation of biodiversity should happen. So, to ensure this particular thing, biodiversity management committees. Now, these biodiversity management committees, what is their composition? Let's understand their composition. So, their composition, guys, will be like this: that they will have a chairperson and six members, six persons will be. Now, this chairperson and six persons of the BMC will be nominated by the local body. And out of these six persons and the chairperson, not less than one third should be women. One third should be 18% should belong to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Is that clear or not? So this is the composition of the BMC, and this BMC will prepare People's Biodiversity Register. Okay? So local body will constitute the BMC. BMC will constitute local body will constitute the BMC. BMC will prepare the People's Biodiversity Register, and for that the consultations will. Now, question comes that what is this People's Biodiversity? Now, this particular register is actually a kind of a document, kind of a database, which actually contains the information about the biological resources, medicinal flora, fauna that are found in a particular region. Okay, knowledge of local biodiversity, biological resources, knowledge about the medicinal plants and any other plants which are found. All that biodiversity related information put in this people's biodiversity. Now, these PBRs, People's Biodiversity Registers, are going to help in multiple directions. First of all, guys, there are any threats to biodiversity in a particular region, if there are certain challenges, then biodiversity management plans for the conservation of biodiversity can be prepared by taking the information out of the PBR. Next is that biodiversity heritage sites. There are certain, now the certain sites, because of their biodiversity's importance, they are declared the tag of biodiversity, so that to declare this such kind of a sites, information can be taken from the people's biodiversity. It will help in conservation of the threatened flora, fauna, species. It will also help, it will prepare the community and indigenous protocols. On the basis of the PBR, if urgent attention is needed, we can bring the community. It will also increase the livelihood of the local community. Okay, livelihood of local community who are dependent on the biodiversity. Let's say suppose some of the community dependent biodiversity on particular type of flora, particular fauna, particular plants. Let's say they're making particular kind of a product, and for that they need some medicinal plant. Okay, now if the biodiversity will be conserved, obviously their livelihood will be conserved indirect. Okay. Moreover, this People's Biodiversity Register also helps in documentation of potential biodiversity for access and benefit sharing mechanism. Now, we have Nagoya Protocol. We have Nagoya Protocol of CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity. And under Nagoya Protocol, it is being provided that if there is any benefit that is being accrued out of biodiversity, suppose there is a medicinal plant and this particular plant can be used for the treatment of cancer. So this benefit needs to be shared with the everyone, other organizations, other agencies, even if there are the other countries, you need to share the benefit with them. Now, how to acknowledge or how to know or how to share this particular benefit? For that, we need to have information, and that information can be documented in PBR. The next is it helps in effective management, promotion, and sustainable use of biodiversity. Then it also helps in protection of rights, including IPR, intellectual property rights. It restricts the flora and fauna which are threatened, endemic, or rare. Okay. It also helps in restricting the activities which are causing the genetic erosion. Certain type of species having a particular gene pool are threatened because of the unwise extraction by the human. So that thing can also be brought into the limelight, and for that particular thing also the reforms can be taken up in this particular direction. Okay, now moving on in this particular direction, guys. Okay, guys, there is a comment that has come, sir, sound problem. Okay, guys, please comment what's the sound problem there. Yes, Fazil, Anil. Okay, can you comment if there's still the problem of sound? Okay, fine. Priyanka says clear. Okay. So basically, because of the contribution of them in preparing the biodiversity management committee and in preparing the biodiverse by helping in preparing the people's biodiversity register, we find this particular thing that Kothenkanam and Palikut, they have been acknowledged. They have done a lot of they have done a lot of work. Even they have taken a lot of steps to operationalize the Biodiversity Act. Okay? But many of the suggestions that they have given, many of the reforms that they had tried to brought, they have not been heartily permitted by the government. But the Kerala government is recognizing their contribution, which is a positive. So this is guys all about this is guys about this particular dimension. But there are some additional dimensions also that I want to discuss. Now, guys, when we talk about the biodiversity, the biggest threat to biodiversity that we have, it is that threat from uh, unsustainable extraction of resources. And in the unsustainable extraction of resources, the biggest challenge that comes is from the mining and quarrying. Okay. Now, for the mining and quarrying, now mining for coal, many other minerals, important marble, stones, etc. For all these kind of things, mining is carried. So, on this particular direction, MB Shah Commission has observed that a lot of illegal mining is going on in and around Goa, and basically the Mines and Minerals Act's provisions are being flouted because of the illegal mining that is going on. It has threatened to the ecology, environment, agriculture. Groundwater is getting polluted, it is getting impacted. Natural streams, rivers, ponds, all these particular things are getting impacted. Why? Because of the unsustainable mining and quarrying that is going on. Moreover, this mining and quarrying, crushing of the stones, it leads to it leads to PM 2.5 and PM 10's concentration. Its concentration increases. It has serious impacts on the health of the people. It adds to the aerosol burden. Aerosol. Moreover, because of these minings, quarrying, etc., that is going on, it has led to more intense floods, landslides, breaching of burns, collapse of buildings. All these things are happening. So therefore, guys, it is being provided that though mining and quarrying is leading to a lot of problems, it has to be addressed. Guys, understand this particular thing that halt. We cannot completely halt mining and quarrying. Okay, it can be moderated. Excess mining and quarrying that is happening, it can be reduced. Okay, for that particular thing, particular can be reduced, and the interest of the grassroots people can be protected. So this is something that needs to be fine. So that is all, guys, about this particular article. And now moving to the next article. Now this article we have taken from the print. A opinion article. All is not well in India's agriculture sector. State must help farmers access the market system. Now this particular article is going to be a very important article for GS paper number 3, issues related to agriculture sector. Okay, many questions even in the prelims examination have been asked on the agriculture sector. Okay. Now, first of all, what are the issues or what are the challenges in agriculture sector that we face in present time? The first challenge is fragmentation of land hold. Fragmentation of land hold. We see this particular thing that the land sizes they have become very much less. And if the land holding size will be low, what will happen? Application of the mechanization of agriculture cannot happen. Suitable investment in that particular land cannot be done. Farm incomes will be very much less if the land size is very much low. Okay. Over the years, the productivity of land will also go down if there are the or very small land holdings, because because mechanization, because of capital intensive kind of agriculture cannot be carried there. Interventions first, for example, increasing the fertilizer. Okay, all these kind of interventions can be carried. Unremunerative prices is a very big challenge. The farmers, the crops that they are selling, they are not getting suitable prices for that. It is leading to the farmers distress. Resource intensive industrial farming. Resource intensive industrial farming, it is not happening. Very small land holdings, marginal farmers, small farmers. Ecological issues are there. Water table depletion is, water table is going down. Okay. There is a erosion in the quality of soil and monocropping. One type of crop is being, okay, nutrients of the soil are getting lost. All these things are there. Now, when we talk about the people suggesting the reforms, now the advocates of reforms are divided between two type of people. One suggests the market takeover, that the private sector capitalist in agriculture should be brought, and other is talking about the great intervention by the state. State should control the agriculture sector more and more so that the reform can be. Now, let's understand both of these particular viewpoints. Market takeover, that is the private sector should play more and more role in agriculture. Now they say that the state's role needs to be minimized and private sector should. According to them, private sector will bring the scientific solution and the science will solve the problems created by science. Okay. We developed the high yielding variety seed, monocropping patterns were brought. Because of that, many challenges. Science can only. Now, in this particular direction, certain suggestions that have been given is that genetically modified crops may be solution to the intensive use of fertilizers and pesticides. Now, these genetically modified crops naturally they can be given the immunity against certain pesticides. So, pesticide is not needed. The productivity of these genetically modified crops can be enhanced artificially. For example, recently the DMH11 mustard was given approval by the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. And according to the estimates, it is said that the genetically modified mustard, its productivity is 28% more. So you don't need to use the fertilizer, or you can use less fertilizer. Hydroponics could be an alternative. What do we understand by hydroponics? Guys, hydroponics is growing the crops or growing the plants in water against not in the soil. So growing plants in water and not in soil is hydroponics. Next is market determined prices. According to them, will correct the overproduction. So see this particular thing. Now, basically, guys, over the years, what has happened? Over the years, what has happened? We have seen this particular thing. Fine. So over the years, guys, there was I got. I hope that the sound is coming clear. Fine. So over the years, what has happened? We found this particular thing that government is giving. For example, let's say government is giving minimum support price. Government is giving MSP, minimum support price. Now, basically, we find this thing that minimum support price on rice and paddy has been, and therefore, farmers what they do? Farmers grow rice, they grow paddy. Now, you know this particular thing that rice and paddy needs a lot of water. Minimum 100 centimeter of rainfall is needed for growing rice and paddy. That is minimum. That's now in Punjab and Haryana, we find this particular thing that the farmers are growing the rice and paddy. Guys, is it clear or not? Okay, guys, is the voice clear? Can you hear it? Guys, is the voice and everything clear? Okay, yes. So we find this particular thing that the rice and paddy is being grown in Haryana and Punjab. Now, because of this particular thing, what's the challenge that's coming? challenge that government procures rice and paddy at MSP, and for that particular thing, the farmers are growing it. It has led to going down of the water levels. You should bring the market determined price. Don't don't bring the distortion. Fine. So on the market prices, the basically procurement needs to be done. It will bring the disincentives and the distorted cropping patterns that are there. They can be resolved. The next is that there is the next viewpoint. This is the viewpoint that market intervention, government should not have any say. Second viewpoint is that no, government should have a say. Government needs to be given the control. Here it is being said that legally binding support agreement, support prices are to be given. In this particular direction, guys, it has been provided that, for example, we want that paddy should not be grown. We want that against the paddy, what should be done? Pulses should be grown. Let's say we want that the millets should be grown, for example. We don't want paddy, we want pulses and we want millet. So government should come in between, and government should incentivize pulses and millet by giving the price support for these crops. Automatically, what will happen? The farmers will shift from paddy, they will go to pulses and the earlier viewpoint, what it was suggesting that government should completely withdraw. If government will withdraw, if government will not give any price support, on the basis of the market dynamics, the farmers will grow their crops. Here it is being said that no, government should not withdraw. Rather, government should engineer the prices in such that particular direction which government. Regular procurement, decentralized procurement needs to be done. Okay. Then next is the zero budget natural farming and organic farming needs to be focused. Promote the zero budget natural farming, promote the organic farming. We already have the schemes such as Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. Under Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana for organic farming, the supports is being the farmer to support it. This is something that is being provided. Then moving on, guys. Basically, both sides, however, the government, the people who support that government role needs to, and the people who said no, government role needs not to be there, private sector's role needs. They also agree that the cooperative structures, the cooperative organization like structures, that is a structure of, for example, of Amul or the farmer producer organization, where farmers come together and on commercial big levels they grow the crop. According to them, they should be. Now, in this particular direction, guys, the ultimate question to be asked is whether agriculture is a sustainable livelihood at all. Today, we see this particular thing that farmer distress is increasing. Is it sustainable? Is it something which can ensure the dignified income? Is it clear or not? When we talk about agriculture, guys, agriculture is also associated with the tradition, sentiment of land ownership, cultural factors. Okay? Because of the cultural factors, sentiments, etc., many number of times people are not very much eager to bring reforms in agriculture. Take the example of the farm laws that got passed 2 years back. There was a lot of protest. Why? Because the farming in India is an emotion. Any intervention there will not be appreciated, and therefore, economics and sentiment, cultural factors will go against it. This is the next article. Budget must rationalize, simplify taxation. For this particular article, guys, we have taken from the business line. Now, what this particular article, guys, is talking about. This particular article, guys, is particularly talking that we need to simplify the taxation system, and the simplification of taxation system is something that needs to be focused in the budget that is being. Now, over the years, guys, we have seen this particular thing that global economy has not been in steady shape. There are a lot of challenges that are coming. Already we have seen these points in the first article. Unprecedented economic challenges, geopolitical challenges, for example, Russia Ukraine war, all these particular issues are there. External scenarios are getting changed. Now, Indian government has to do a, though Indian government has done well to maintain the stability in the tax rates in India, but more has to be done. More has to be done. Today. Today, the country is recognized for its strong growth performance, and there is a continued potential to contribute to global growth. Fine. Though the conditions are uncertain. Actually, in this article, there are certain measures, 5 measures that have been given on the budget that we can bring to bring the anomalies in the tax structure. There are certain challenges in tax structure, and those challenges can be resolved, reformed by bringing these 5 measures. Number one, we need to extend the sunset period of incentive. Now, guys, see this particular thing that when the COVID-19 started, government came out with the 20 lakh crore rupees fiscal package, and this 20 lakh crore fiscal package was named as the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, concessional tax rates were announced for a particular number of manufacturing. Tax rate of 15% was announced for the manufacturing industry. Now, this particular incentive was available for the period of 2019 to 2023. Now, March 31, 2023 is just coming, and the concessional tax rate on certain manufacturing sector that was there, it will go down. Because of this particular, now this is something that needs to be extended. Guys, still we see this thing that economic uncertainty is going on. Still there is yet another, again the COVID-19 cases are increasing in the China. So basically manufacturing sector is still is facing the challenges, and to support the manufacturing sector for at least 2 years till 2025, the incentives need to be sunset period, guys, means that a scheme which comes for a particular period, that for 2 years you will get this benefit, for 3 years that you get benefit. So this is the sunset incentive. It will not go endlessly. It will for a, it is a for a particular. The sunset incentives for the manufacturing sector which are expiring in 2023, they are needed to be extended for at least. Now this particular thing will encourage the manufacturing companies to go for capacity creation. Manufacturing sectors will invest, fine, and ultimately employment. Next suggestion that comes here is that we need to streamline the process. Basically, the tax compliances in India are needed to be more seamless. They are needed to be more, and for improving the tax compliances, we need to go for more digitalization. The income tax assessments need to happen through the artificial intelligence in digital manner. Paperless payment of the taxes need to be brought. Now, we also need to focus on dispute resolution. For example, guys, many times there are tax disputes. These dispute resolution needs to be, minimization of the disputes needs to be there, so that between the government, between the government and between the taxpayers, the dispute should not emerge. So minimization of tax dispute, faceless appeal. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that suppose you have filed your ITR, income tax return. As you have filed your income tax return, you find this particular thing. Now that government finds that there are certain anomalies in your ITR will be scrutinized. Your ITR will be scrutinized. And earlier you have to get present in self in the front of an officer of the income tax department. Now it is being said that these appeals, while the scrutiny is going on, it needs to be the faceless appeal. Advanced pricing agreement. What is advanced pricing agreement? So guys, beforehand an agreement is signed between the tax authority and the taxpayer with respect to their future arrangement. So with their future pricing, future policies with respect to the tax, they are clarified in one advanced. So we need to focus on more advanced pricing agreement, so that the foreign investors that are coming in, they are assured about the tax treatment. Board of advanced ruling, help in advanced pricing, dispute resolution for the taxation need. Then third reform that is being provided is that we need to reduce the disparity in TDS rate. TDS is tax deducted at source. Now there are multiple TDS rates that are there. Section 194R has been added, Section 190S has been added in the Finance Act 2022. And because of that thing, there are the differential rates, differential thresholds for the TDS. So government need to consider that we need to simplify the TDS collection. Okay? We need to have only 2 or 3 categories of the TDS rates. There needs to be a negative list. Okay. Um, like negative list, fine, which will not be liable to the TDS, and then there are the other sectors where the TDS has to be deducted, and simplified rates also need to be there. Then next reform that comes in this particular direction is that, guys, we need to focus on bringing more clarity on capital. Now, what is capital gain? Capital gain is a tax that is applicable when there is some kind of a gain in your asset that has happened. Let me give you one. Suppose, guys, you brought a land for 1 lakh, and 20 years later, you sold that particular land, let's say, for 20 lakh rupees. 20 lakh rupees. So if you see the price of your land, the appreciation in your land is 19 lakh rupees. 19 lakh rupees appreciation in your land happened. Okay. So now on this 19 lakh rupees, the tax will be, and this is the, we have the capital gain tax of two types, short term capital gain tax and long term. Now on the capital gain tax, there is no control. capital gain tax might be applicable, and it might be applicable artifact that you brought. It might be applicable on the shares that you have brought and you are selling after a particular. So different kind of assets, and on different kind of assets, there are different capital gain tax rates are there. So we need to ensure that we need to create the broad classes, and the instruments falling in these particular classes, they need to have a same kind of a capital gain tax. This is something that is to be the indexation benefits. Fine. So guys, as the inflation will be changing, okay, so the indexation benefits, indexation charges are different. Okay, for resident and non-residents, also that capital gain tax are. Then the fifth reform is that we need to reduce the tax rate. Now, guys, what has happened last few years, in order to incentivize, in order to attract the corporate sector, what has happened? We have reduced the corporate tax, but at the same time, we have reduced the corporate tax rate. But at the same time, guys, what has happened? uh, the personal income tax rate, they stays there. So today the tax rate, there are the tax on the tax, after the tax there will be the cesses and all such kind there. So rate of income tax that is being imposed on individual goes to around 42.74%, but the normal corporate tax rate is just 25.1. So there is a differential between individual and corporate tax rate. It is leading to structuring decisions that are being. Now what is happening? People are changing their proprietorship business to a company format. They are changing their proprietorship business to the company format. Because of that particular thing, guys, this structuring challenges that are coming. So we need to solve that particular. And finally, the suggestion that's given is that we need to boost the private consumption. We need to reduce the tax rate. Okay. It is being said that individuals who are earning income up to 20 lakh rupees, okay, they are needed to be given the tax reduction. And budget 23-24 needs to focus on all these particular things. Fine. So these are, guys, all the suggestions that have been given in this. So that is all, guys, about the today's session. And with this, we come to an end the today's newspaper, today editorial analysis. Guys, if you have any doubt, if there is any problem, if there is any issue, you may ask your. Okay. Yes, guys, any doubt here? Okay, there's one question. If taxes will reduce, inflation is neutral or high? Understand this particular thing is that, see, the taxes are being reduced. Then what will happen? The disposable income that you can spend, it will increase. And if the disposable incomes will increase, the people will demand more. And if demand will increase, people will demand more and more. It can slightly increase the inflation, but not that. Slightly it will increase the inflation, but that big impact will. Okay, yes, guys, any other doubt? Yes, guys, any other doubt in this particular direction? You may ask if you have any doubt. Okay. Okay, guys, so that is all for the today. And I hope that you have enjoyed the session. I hope that you have liked the session. Venki, uh, audio not clear. So Venki, understand this particular thing that how it will respond. Basically, if you reduce the taxes, the disposable income, the income that you can spend, it will increase. Disposable income will increase. If disposable income will increase, people will demand more and more product. When people will demand more, what will happen? The inflation can increase. It might. Fine, Venki, now is it clear? I hope it is clear now. Okay, fine, guys. That is all for today, guys. And with this, we have come to an end to today's newspaper analysis. And the PDF of this entire session, this entire PDF that we are discussing, is available at our Telegram channel. Link for the Telegram channel has been given in description box, guys. So you can download the PDF from there. Okay, so this PDF is available. Anil, tax reduces impact on government economic growth. How can manage? Guys, yes, if we will reduce the taxes, what will happen? It will have a impact on the revenue collection by government. If revenue collection by government will go down, obviously government might not be able to spend money on many such kind of things. Okay, economic growth might be, that might be the reason, but we are not saying that you completely waive off the taxes. We are talking about that the marginal reduction needs to be fine. That is all guys about the today. Thank you so much guys. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow at the same time. Till then, please take care of yourselves guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.